Hello and hello everybody. Have you ever wanted to be a spell-slinging mage, a warrior holding a ginormous weapon 2 times the size of your body, or maybe a paladin who holds a weapon and shield with spells to keep themselves alive? Well, the game that we're talking about today, Elder Scrolls 5 Oblivion Remastered, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remaster provides that to the player. As a longtime fan of the Elder Scrolls series, when I saw that the Oblivion Remaster was coming up, I was more than ecstatic. This is one of my first RPGs where I actually got to delve into the nitty gritty. I did play Morrowind as a kid, but I had no idea what the hell was going on most of the time, so it was kind of more like me fumbling around along on my own save files, because being the youngest in the family, you never really got your own save file. But as I welcome future, past, and present heroes of Kvatch to this video, we will be going into what the Oblivion Remaster is and why I think it's important that it came out when it did. Now, the Oblivion Remaster came out earlier this year and was a group project between Bethesda Game Studios and Virtuos, sorry, not Vertigo. Virtuos. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that. But it had a unique way to make a remaster. The way they did it is they had, at least the best way I can explain it. If anybody has a better idea, feel free to throw it down in the comments, or actually knows the nitty gritty of it. I would appreciate that very much. But they used the original creation engine code, and then they kind of wrapped it around UE5 around the creation engine. Kind of like a sandwich. The meat, the lettuce, tomatoes, all of that was creation engine, and then the 2 pieces of bread that enclosed it was what the Unreal Engine 5 did. And it was a cool way to do it, but also caused a lot of issues. Some of them were kind of big, but most of them are kind of small issues. There's a bunch of videos out there that kind of explain it. Like, my favorite one is if you're on a horse and you're on a horse for a long time, the camera starts getting all like wonky and starts zooming out a lot. But some of them actually cause game altering issues, but we will go into that a little bit later. Now, I think Oblivion Remaster coming out now is great because I think it introduces what old Bethesda Game Studio games were like before Fallout 4, Skyrim, Starfield. Usually in newer BGS games, game systems usually get cut and they add less and less and less than the past games. Now, in Oblivion, you have spellcrafting, which isn't in Skyrim. Spellcrafting, how it works in Oblivion, is that you would have spells in your list, like you bought or learned from questing, and then you could use those spells to make your own spell. So you could have a spell that does fire, frost, and lightning damage, and then on top of that, you could make a spell that would make people take more damage from fire, ice, and lightning damage. And you could also do a lot of fun things with it, like increasing someone's hand-to-hand combat stat and turning them in rage. So you could cast that onto unsuspecting civilians, and then they go on a full rampage until the guards have to take them down. There's also enchanting, but Skyrim has, in a way, a better enchanting system than Oblivion. Enchanting in Skyrim, you can make very powerful enchantments, especially with the potions and stuff available. You can do some really stupid stuff with it. In Oblivion, it takes out the powerful one enchantment for being able to put more enchantments on your weapon. They aren't very powerful, they're not very potent, but if you put 3 or 4 on, it kind of equates to it. But I still think Skyrim's enchanting is better than Oblivion's, and more time and not in Oblivion, finding a quest item would be more beneficial than making your own magical weapon. While we're speaking about enchanting, something that Oblivion has that Skyrim doesn't is arrow enchanting. With arrow enchanting, it works the same way as it does in Oblivion. You put an stack of arrows, you throw a soul gem in, and you have all of your spells that you could put on it. Do you want to make paralyzing arrows? Do you want to make poison, reduce people's poison resistance and then put a poison on your arrow? There's just multiple ways to make it work, and it kind of gives the not so broken archery builds a little more to do. Another thing that I think Oblivion does do better than Skyrim is its level up system. In Skyrim, I'm pretty sure this is all common knowledge by now, but Skyrim's perk systems are the most bland, uninteresting perks I have ever seen in an RPG. Instead of passively giving you more damage from leveling up the skills that it does in Oblivion, in Skyrim you would have to use these perks. Oh, your one-hand weapons deal more damage. Oh, your two-handed weapons deal more damage. Oh, your fire spells deal more damage. Oh, your summons deal more damage. And so you're kind of forced to take those perks. There's no, if you're using it, it's just dumb not to take those perks. So instead of having things that would be interesting builds to do with these perks, everybody was kind of narrowed into what kind of path they could take in the perk systems. In Oblivion, they don't have the perk system, they have an attribute system. Think of it kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, D&D, those kind of attributes. Strength, agility, endurance, willpower, intelligence, and luck. I think those are the 6. And leveling up kind of works the same way as it does in Skyrim, where you use a skill, you hit your next skill level up, it increases your bar. But what Oblivion does differently is there is major skills and minor skills. Major skills are something where you can, when you're making your character or progressing through the first mission, you get to choose a class or create your class. I always highly recommend creating your own class so you can choose whatever you want in there, but sometimes people like the already created classes. So, but how that happens is you choose, I think, 7 or 8 major classes or major skills, and then the rest will become minor. So let's say I'm playing a sword wielding spellcaster. I take blade, destruction, restoration, light armor, probably alchemy, because alchemy is broken in Oblivion, and then the other 2 kind of whatever I'm feeling like. So when I level up those major skills, it will increase my level bar more than if I increased a minor skill that was at the same level. Major skills also improve faster, and you start at a higher level on those skills compared to the minor skills. And then every time you level up, you get points. In the old Oblivion, how it would work is each skill is affiliated with an attribute. So blade would be strength, heavy armor endurance, conjuration would be intelligence, and destruction would be willpower. So depending on what skills you leveled up to hit your next level would change how many points you could give. You were just smacking stuff with your sword, you could add 5 to your strength. but you weren't casting that many spells, so you could only get 1 or 2 on intelligence and willpower. What they changed in the remaster is they made it that you get 12 points no matter what each level up, but you can only put them in 3. And I think the maximum is 4 or 5. So you would level up, and then it would show the screen. And let's say, oh, I was casting spells, but my intelligence and willpower is already really high. I need more health. Doesn't matter that I didn't upgrade any of the skills that is affiliated with endurance. I could still put 5 points in endurance, which is a lot better system than the prior Oblivion, because a lot of people's characters would break after a certain point, because you would min-max strength and endurance, but then you had no intelligence or willpower, so you couldn't cast any spells. Or vice versa, you're really good at casting spells, but you can only hold like 5 objects before you're over encumbered. And going back to the point of them cutting stuff out, like the spell making, there's also something BGS does a lot by cutting weapon types. Morrowind to Oblivion, a bunch of weapons got cut. Oblivion to Skyrim, not that many weapons got cut, but weapons still got cut. And a biggest component between Oblivion to Skyrim is the loss of short swords. Short swords kind of worked like long swords or regular swords, depending on the type, or depending on what it was made out of. But short swords swung faster, had shorter range, and took less endurance in Oblivion. What they changed in Oblivion, instead of short swords being strength based, they are now agility based. And how that works is each weapon, axe, warhammer, mace, those had an attribute that would affect its damage. If you had high strength, it would deal more damage with those weapons if you had a lower strength. And short sword worked that way, but this time it's agility. So agility would be like daggers and bows. The higher your agility on that is the more damage you do with those weapon types. And short sword is pretty much how it works that way. I thought it was a super cool system. I really love short swords, but I was kind of a little upset that it was agility, because I usually don't do agility characters in Oblivion. I'm usually a giant mace wielding, magic dealing bastard man. But I thought it was cool. And then the game prior to Oblivion, Morrowind, had a bunch of weapons cut. Spears have been cut. There's things called Eastern weapons, so think of anything from like Asian cultures were cut. And then throwing weapons were also cut. Now in Morrowind, throwing weapons weren't that great. If you wanted to do a range character, it'd be much better just to do a bow. But also at the same time, versatility is great, especially in a game that isn't necessarily too hard like older or newer BGS games. Now that we went through the things that have changed between Bethesda games, I want to go through and talk about some of the reasons why I prefer Oblivion over Skyrim. Oblivion is probably one of my favorite games when it comes to story by Bethesda Studios. Not necessarily the stories themselves, but the characters that are involved in the story. For every professor at the College of Winterhold, there's 4 people, or 4 times the amount of people, who all have interesting stories, send you on fun quests, and will teach you spells or give you items after completing the quest. Dragonborn Crisis compared to the Oblivion Crisis, I feel like is way more fleshed out. It kind of makes you feel more involved than just being, oh, you're one of one. You're the only person who could take care of it. You're in the main story in Oblivion, the Oblivion Crisis. You literally start in a sewer to become one of the heroes of Cyrodiil. The companion quest line in Skyrim wasn't the worst. I thought it was probably one of the more enjoyable quest lines in Skyrim, but the Fighters Guild's characters in Oblivion are way better than any of the companions in Skyrim, in my opinion. There's one character that you will do a lot of quests for, and he will be involved a lot in the Fighters Guild, and he, hands down, is one of my favorite characters in Oblivion. He's very sarcastic, funny. He also enjoys painting. So if you have ever seen his painting before, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. He is an excellent painter, totally Bob Ross level. Don't even worry about it. But each one of the guilds and the main quest line in Oblivion, they all have something interesting going on. The Oblivion Crisis is the plane of Oblivions are coming to Cyrodiil. So you have to find a way to stop it. The Fighters Guild, there's another Fighters Guild like company that's come up and taking jobs, and you have to figure out why or how they're doing this. In the Mages Guild, necromancy just got banned in Cyrodiil, and the necromancers are blaming the Mages Guild for this. And another quest line that's in Oblivion, that something got completely cut from Skyrim because of lore reasons. I understand that, but it still made me sad. There is an arena in Oblivion. And think of it just like gladiators clashing. You go to the arena, you join the blue team, and then it's literally fights to the death until you make it to become the champion of the arena. It was a very cool idea. They're usually gated to certain parts. I shouldn't say gated. The characters that you fight are at specific like levels. Could you beat all of it level 1? Yeah, you could. It'd be extremely hard, and you would have to really know what you were doing with your build, but it's possible. But it's kind of something that's designed for you to go through. You hit the wall, like, oh, this is really, really hard. I'm going to go do something else, level up a couple of times, and come back to it. And after you become the champion, you get these weekly matches, which is, I think it's called like Man versus Beast or Champion versus Beast. And it would give you a selection of monsters that are in the overworld that you could fight. And the monsters available would be the ones in range of your level. So if you were level 5, you'd probably be fighting goblins and bears and such, but once you hit like level 20, level 30, you're pretty much just fighting minotaurs at that point. And they have weapons that you can pick up, unlike regular fights where if the person dies, you cannot pick up any of their weapons because you're breaking their honor. And I've tried multiple ways trying to get weapons out of there. I just don't think it's possible, especially with the remaster. Skyrim's DLC were very cool, very interesting. I liked them very much. I think one of Oblivion's DLC just blows the other two out of the water, and then the first DLC in Oblivion isn't great, but the items you get from it are one of the better items in the game, which is the Knights of Nine. Knights of Nine takes you through a story of a lost round circle of knights who in the past defended the world against a overpowering enemy, which this enemy has now returned, and it is up to the hero of Kvatch to take over the role of the Knights of the Nine and defeat the enemy. It's pretty quick. In the Oblivion Remaster, it is a little glitchy. I've had a bunch of issues where I had to quit the game, restart, but that's kind of a common issue in the remaster, is sometimes the NPCs will just break and you just have to close your game and restart it. They have put patches out since the game came out, but I still haven't seen a patch that has fixed those issues. I guess fixed all of the issues, but it's something, if you enjoy the game, you can go through it and not worry about it. But at the same time, I feel like it's something that should be brought up, because if you don't really like the game, I wouldn't recommend buying it, because you will have to fight the game more than you're fighting the enemies of the games at certain points. The Knights of Nine armor is one of my favorites and one of the best armors in the game. You look like a Templar Knight, and a cool mechanic with the Knights of Nine armor and weapon is that you have to be a good person. If you commit a crime, if you kill somebody like an innocent, you may have gotten away with killing the innocent, but the gods of the realm saw it and will take the armor away from you. It will still be in your inventory, but you cannot equip it. And then once that happens, you have to go through a pilgrimage that you did at the pretty much start of the Knights of Nine questline. Go through the pilgrimage again. They will atone you of your sins, and then you can re-equip the armor. The areas that you go to in the Knights of Nine quest don't really change from what you've been doing in the base game. There will be new enemy types, but there's only one new enemy type, and then the boss itself. A boss fight is also really cool. I don't want to spoil too much about it. Let's just say you literally fight him like it's an anime battle. But after you're done with the Knights of Nine quest, I always highly recommend, if you buy this game, if you play this game, you have to try Shivering Isles. Shivering Isles is kind of like the Dragonborn DLC, where it takes you into another area of the game. But unlike the Dragonborn DLC, where you go to Morrowind, and the Shivering Isles DLC, you go to another plane of Oblivion. This plane of Oblivion is ran by Sheogorath, and Sheogorath is the Oblivion god of chaos, pretty much. And when you get to the Shivering Isles, you will be in like one locked section before you progress the story, and then once you do that, you will be opened up for the rest of the world. And once it opens up, it pretty much, I like to call it the Alice of Wonderland area, but there's two different sides. There's Mania and Mayhem, and both of those kind of look the same, but once you get into cities, you'll notice that depending on what side you're on, you'll either deal with really crazy people or really depressed people. The cool thing about the Shivering Isles DLC is that it's an interesting story that doesn't take itself too seriously. The areas that you go and explore are all new, different areas, very well designed, and it kind of mixes nature with cities. I highly recommend the Shivering Isles DLC. I don't want to talk about it too much. I could make a whole video about the Shivering Isles DLC, but the characters you're introduced to, the spells that are given, the armor that's available to you is all just super cool The one issue I do have with the Shivering Isles is the last fight. I won't show it because I want to hold off spoiling people from the game, but the last fight in Shivering Isles crashes after 30 seconds. No matter what. The last guy spawns, 30 seconds pass, it crashes. I've tried different things. I've tried saving right before he comes in, quitting the game, loading it, and doing it. The only reason I beat it is that I had to go into the difficulty settings, put it on the easiest difficulty, just to one-shot the guy pretty much, get the achievement for beating the quest line, and then letting it crash after. From my knowledge, it still isn't fixed. I don't think a lot of people are having this issue. I think I'm just the bug catcher at Oblivion at this point. I feel like the Oblivion Remaster, if there was a bug, I found it. But overall, I feel like the Shivering Isles DLC is one of the best DLCs Bethesda's put out. I would put it in the same category as Far Harbor and the Vampire DLC from Skyrim. Now that we're talking about DLCs, there's something I do want to bring up with being the DLC houses. There are 4 DLC houses available in Oblivion, and each one is great depending on what character you're playing. There's a castle that's being overrun by bandits that you can go save the castle from the bandits, and that castle is for more warrior archetypes. There's a forge for you to make stuff. It'll increase your repair skills so your stuff can be repaired easier, and you can buy upgrades for this house to make the castle into a castle of its former self. If you're more of a mage type, there is a tower in the snowy mountains that will have potion ingredients for you. There's an spell making and enchanting altar there, and there's also an astronaut altar. With the astronaut altar, you just have to grab a couple of specific ingredients, throw it into the altar, and make either a flame, frost, or storm astronaut. If you're more of a thief or an assassin type, there is a pirate ship. This pirate ship also has kind of a quest line just like the castle. It's not very long. All of the quest lines aren't very long, but in the pirate ship you will be able to hire a crew necessarily. It is a crashed pirate ship in a cave that you make your home. You hire these mercenaries and they can go off and do jobs for you. The last DLC house is one of the more niche DLC house. It is a cove in the southern eastern side of the map, and I think it's for people who want to play as vampires. Unlike in Skyrim, I feel like vampires are very bad, just to put it. The benefits you get from the deterrents you get don't really make it worth it, especially a lot of the times. To get the most powerful buffs, people refuse to talk to you after you get those powerful buffs. So I just think it's something that the Cove helps vampire players, but if you are a vampire player, I just think there's better ways to go through it. Just like all the other DLC houses, you could buy upgrades for it, so you can have like a feeding area where there's people there that you can just feed on, so you can keep your vampirism in control. But like I said prior, all of the cool buffs on vampire are when you don't feed, but the deterrent you get from those buffs doesn't outweigh how good they are. I think this remaster was a very good idea. I think the changes they added to it were very nice, but one of the things I'm happy they kept was the old NPC jank. I'm sure you guys have seen the clips when the game first came out. A lot of streamers ran into a lot of interesting NPCs that are found throughout the world. Some of the things they say, some of the dialogue you have with them, some of the quests, they're all just perfectly stupid, and I love it. And I wish there was more of it in Bethesda games nowadays. Like I said prior, there are a bunch of glitches in the game, like the camera one. Oh my god. The camera one I brought up earlier. There's also the NPC glitches where NPCs won't let you continue the story until you save, quit, and reload. The crashes that I've had in Shivering Isles and one in the Knights of Nine quest line. From my research, they're all present, they're all still there. I don't even know if they're even going to try to fix it. So, with that being said, can I recommend Oblivion Remaster? Sadly, I don't think I can. As much as I love the game, as much as I think it adds, I guess not adds, but re-shows what old Bethesda Game Studios games were like, I think the problems it has outweighs what it gives. If you really love Oblivion, if you really enjoy older RPGs, I would say go for it, try it, power through the glitches that I went through. But since it's been out for this long, and if you haven't bought it yet, I feel like it's best to wait till they fix these issues before you actually play it. So all in all, it is a fun game. It has good mechanics, a lot of fun things you can do, good stories, but the glitches and crashes just make it unrecommendable. But if you guys enjoyed this, or if there's another game you guys want to talk about, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Deuces.